Hey, welcome to Let Me in the Library. My name is Rachel, and today we're going to do my May TBR. If you've been on my channel before, you know sometimes I do TBR in my car. Admittedly, this is not going to be fully inside of my car, but this is my brand new car that I just got for my job, so I was excited to just show it off a little bit in a video. But today we're going to be talking about all the books that I want to read in the month of May. I have a dice game which has been newly revamped. I have a couple readathons going on, the Asian readathon and the new galacticthon that is being run as a sci-fi readathon for the month. And also, this is the month that I started my booktube channel, so we're going to talk about a couple different things, some buddy reads, some other things that I am planning to be reading this month. First off, let's talk a little bit about my revamped dice game. So I run a dice game where I have a 20-sided dice and I roll it. I have different prompts that are assigned to every number, and based on that I will read a book. I asked for some changes basically a little while ago and said, hey, if you have other ideas for prompts, let me know. I want to revamp this game. And that was actually before I realized, because it had been so long and I took a booktube break, that I had already revamped the dice game, but I wanted to include everyone's choices. I have a slightly different list than usual, and I'm going to put that over here so you can see all of the different options for the upcoming months as well as this month here. I may be swapping in and out some prompts in the future, but for now this is the new 1 to 20 list that I used. So what I do is I roll 6 20-sided dice, and again, whatever numbers I get on the dice is what I need to read. I also roll a 4-sided dice, which is a little pyramid looking guy. Based on what that gives me as a number, I can move any one prompt up or down on the 1 through 20 list to get a different prompt if I want to switch it up, which I did this month. So you'll see that the numbers that I got are here in this next video where I roll the dice and we see what I get. Dice. Oh shoot, I missed. Okay. Looks like we have, wow, okay, so we have a nat 20, which is great. And then in order, we have a 9, 2 8s, a 7, and a 4. So I rolled all 6. Let me roll a d4, which is a 3. Hey, I'm back. I changed. I needed to have a place that was not like overheating instantly. So we were back inside. I changed. I went for a more stylish look at this point, which is a great time to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Ana Luisa. So Ana Luisa is a jewelry brand. I've worked with them before, and they are just a really, really great company because they have affordable pieces that actually don't break the bank and also don't break your heart because they actually care about the way that they make their products. Every piece is rigorously strength and humidity tested, so they're long-lasting pieces. Ana Luisa is also carbon and water neutral. There's pieces that appeal to more of a cute, playful style, like this Onda mini pair of earrings that I have, or maybe you want something that's a bit more sophisticated or business appropriate, so there's also these Rocks small twists that I've been wearing a lot. I'm wearing these flower huggy hoop earrings today. They are just adorable, but they also just feel classy at the same time. It's a huggy hoop, so it's in there. It's stuck in there. It really feels like it's not going to fall out of my ear at all, which is a problem that I have. I also wear their necklaces kind of all the time. This is the Tracy heart necklace that I'm wearing right now, and I actually have this other one. Forget the name of this one, but I've had this other necklace from Ana Luisa for a while. I'm very lazy when I want to go take a shower. I really don't want to take out my earrings or take off my necklace or anything, but these don't tarnish, which is nice. So I can actually just wear these into the shower. And also, I am always annoyed when I have to take off my jewelry to go to bed, but these are so comfortable that I can just sleep in these and I wake up the next day and I'm like, oh, I'm ready to just be stylish by accident. I really love these pieces, and knowing that I'll get to keep wearing them for years to come, because I've had a lot of my jewelry from Ana Luisa for probably over 2 years, and they do have a 2-year warranty. Let me tell you this, I break a lot of jewelry by accident. I will accidentally like break the chain or the clasp will come off. That has never been a problem with this jewelry. It just feels high quality. I can do whatever I want and this jewelry does not break, and it's great. And it only starts at $39, so this is a really great gift if you wanted to get something for your mother for Mother's Day, or a mom friend, or just other people in your life that you would like to appreciate with a little something that is beautiful and timeless and great. There's a sale right now for Mother's Day, so that will get you 25% off. You can check out their website and see all of the beautiful pieces that you can choose from. As always, there's free shipping within the US, which is extremely fast. I think these pieces got to me in just a couple of days, and exchanges are also free if you change your mind. Check out Ana Luisa if you would like to purchase something for a loved one before this Mother's Day and get that 25% off. Let us move right back into the TBR video and talk a little bit about what I'm going to be reading based on the rolls that I got. So the first thing that I rolled was a 4, and a 4 is a random word generator. You would not believe how hard this was for me to find a book, but I found a random word generator online. I ran it and I got the word law. You would think law would come up kind of a lot, but I guess I had kind of a TBR in mind, so trying to find books that would fit based on the readathons and everything I'm participating in without completely overloading my stack was a little difficult, but I ended up finding a perfect book. I got this random word generator prompt from someone on Instagram, and they said you can either have the word in the title or in the synopsis, and thank God that it could be in the synopsis, because so many of the books that I have been trying to look for, like the only things I can find are like Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. But I actually found Artemis, which I have been really wanting to read for a long time. I know there's very mixed reviews about this book, but I remember reading part of it and enjoying it a lot years ago. So this has the word law in it. I'll read to you what this book is about. Jasmine Bashara has never signed up to be a hero. She just wanted to get rich. Not crazy, eccentric, billionaire rich like many of the visitors to her hometown of Artemis, humanity's first and only lunar colony, just rich enough to move out of her coffin-sized apartment and eat something better than flavored algae. Rich enough to pay off a debt she's owed for a long time. So when a chance at a huge score finally comes her way, Jazz can't say no, but engineering the perfect crime is just the start of her problems, because her little heist is about to land her in the middle of a conspiracy for control of Artemis itself. Trapped between competing forces, pursued by a killer and the law, she'll have to hatch a truly spectacular scheme to have a chance of staying alive and saving her city. Jazz is no hero, but she's a very good criminal. That'll have to do. This is a book by Andy Weir. I read The Martian. I loved it. I have heard much more mixed things about this book, mixed meaning like sub 3 stars, but I'm very willing to give it a shot, and it also feels very on theme for one of the readathons that I'm participating in, but we'll get to that later. Next up, I got a 7, which is to read a book with the word blue in the title. I decided to pick Red, White, and Royal Blue. Yes, this is a very famous booktube book, but no, I have actually never read it, and Pride Month is coming up, so what better time to do it? This is a story about a romance that blossoms between the son of the American US president and the son of the Queen of England, I believe, and the two of them meet and have like a tussle, and then they basically are forced to have like a PR friendship to repair relations between the nations, but they end up actually like falling for each other and then going like, oh, how are we gonna make this work because of all the political stuff. And it's definitely not like heavy political, but I think it's just that is like a through line, like that is the big problem. I say that knowing that I have seen the movie, but it's been a while and I was kind of doing a puzzle the whole time. But I watched it with a bunch of friends in Michigan last year, and I want to actually read the source material. So that's what I'm going to be doing for this prompt this month. Then I rolled an 8. So I rolled an 8 twice, but I moved one of them with my D4. The 8 is a favorite trope, so I'm going to be using one of those for Dune. Yes, Dune. I mentioned that I'm going to be reading this in a recent vlog. This is one of my boyfriend's favorite books, and also it's very sci-fi heavy, and I really liked the movies, so I just wanted to read the source material knowing that there was probably a lot more in the books than what there is elsewhere. And I also have somewhat of a book club that's running with some friends IRL. We're going to be reading some Dune. And I definitely need the time to read it because this is a thickie. Dune is about a young boy named Paul Atreides and how the very large problems that are occurring on these planets far off in space affect him and his life and all of the many people who live on these planets. The Fremen, who live out in this sort of like desert-like part of the planet, and they survive off of the land, whereas he is sort of like this privileged little boy prince guy. But they have been placed there. There's political alliances that are all going and moving around at the same time. His family pretty much gets like usurped, and he becomes I don't necessarily think I would say like an outlaw, but like people are hunting him pretty much, where they're like, we gotta get rid of this guy because they're trying to kill everybody in the royal family and just take over the whole area, because the planet that they're on harvests spice, and spice is a very powerful element that would allow you to pretty much like see the future, or at least foresee possible futures. And this is partially used for the space travel, where they can move around and navigate the ships best because they know what the different paths are. Like, this is their GPS. But if they don't have the spice, they also don't feel that they control as much powerfully as they can. So it's very, very political. I'm excited about this because I haven't really read a heavy sci-fi book in a long time. And obviously this is like a heavy sci-fi book too, but I'm super, super excited about this one. So I moved my other 8 prompt, so we'll get to that later, but the next thing I have is a 9, which is a friend's favorite. So I'm going to be picking up First Sister. This is one of Christine from the Roomies Digest's favorite books, so I wanted to read it because it's also been on my list for forever. I have been dying to read this, so I will read to you what it is because it's been so long that I kind of forget what it's about. The First Sister has no name and no voice. As a priestess of the sisterhood, she travels the stars alongside the soldiers of Earth and Mars, the same ones who own the rights to her body and soul. When her former captain abandons her, First Sister's hopes for freedom are dashed, and she is forced to stay on her ship with no friends, no power, and a new captain, Saito Ren, who she knows nothing about. She's commanded to spy on Captain Ren by the sisterhood, but soon discovers that working for the war effort is so much harder to do when you're falling in love. Leto's soul, Lucius, climbs his way out of the slums to become an elite soldier of Venus, but was defeated in combat by none other than Saito Ren, resulting in the disappearance of his partner, Hiro. When Leto learns that Hiro is both alive and a traitor to the cause, he now has a shot at redemption, track down and kill his former partner. But once he discovers recordings that Hiro secretly made, Leto's own allegiances are put to the test. Ultimately, he must decide between following orders and following his heart. When also R.F. Kuang blurbed this, so you already know it's gotta be good. She said, wonderfully imaginative and gripping. If you enjoyed Red Rising or Mass Effect and want to see more women and queer characters, this is absolutely for you. I couldn't put it down. Also, NPR says, stylish. Next is the prompt that I moved. So I had an 8 and I used the D4 that I rolled, which gave me a 3. So I moved it up 3 slots to number 11, and that is going to give me a mostly purple cover. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to reread one of my favorite books ever, which is To Be Taught If Fortunate. Are you seeing a theme? It's very sci-fi heavy this month. So To Be Taught If Fortunate, I love so much. It is about a small group of people who kind of form a found family who are these spacefarer explorers. They have developed a new technology that will kind of like biosynthesize all the things that you would need to survive out in space that make it currently impossible for explorers to go out and do these very long missions. So they have the ability to like change their body's like temperature and the way that it interacts with the environments so that they can, you know, I think they still need to eat, but they can just eat like algae and stuff like that and they're fine. But like it changes the entire body chemistry. But the thing is, they are changing, but also so is Earth. You always know that there's the thing about time dilation and the fact that you're really far away, so by the time you get back to Earth, so much time will have passed. So the cultures on Earth are shifting and changing so much that the question kind of comes of like, when we return back to Earth, is it even going to really be the same? So the main character, Ariadne O'Neill, is pretty much through this series of like diary entries, she is chronicling their adventures of what's going on, their discoveries. And I remember there was a moment reading this book where my jaw hit the ground and I could not stop thinking about this book. I'm really excited to read it again because it was just such a great reading experience and I highly recommend it to everybody because it's so good. Lastly, I rolled a 20, which is to read a title that has all of the letters of your name. My name is Rachel, so I'm trying to find a book that has all the letters of my name in it, not in order. So I found that actually this works perfectly with the Winer's Book Club pick we're going to be discussing around the end of this month, which is Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I am going to read to you again what this is about because I don't remember. If you look hard enough at old photographs, we're there in the background. Healers in the trenches, suffragettes, Bletchley Park oracles, land girls and resistance fighters. Why is it we help in times of crisis? we have a gift. We are stronger than mundanes, plain and simple. On the eve of the summer solstice, 4 young girls, Helena, Leonie, Niamh, and Elle, took the oath to join Her Majesty's Royal Coven, established by Queen Elizabeth I as a covert government department. Now, decades later, the witch community is still reeling from a civil war, and Helena is now the reigning high priestess of the organization. Yet Helena is the only one of her friend group still enmeshed in the stale bureaucracy of HMRC. Elle is trying to pretend she's a normal housewife. Niamh has become a country vet, using her powers to heal sick animals. In what Helena perceives as the deepest betrayal, Leonie has defected to start her more inclusive and intersectional coven diaspora. And now Helen has a bigger problem. A young warlock of extraordinary capabilities has been captured by authorities and seems to threaten the very existence of HMRC. With conflicting beliefs over the best course of action, the 4 friends must decide where their loyalties lie, with preserving tradition or doing what's right. This is a book that we'll be discussing on Darian's channel again at the end of the month, so if we have a link to that, I will put that in the description of this video so that you can watch it and hang out with us. So if you want to read that along with us, please do. Okay, I've done all of the dice prompts, so it's time to get into the readathon, since I kind of just talked about our book club book. So for the readathons in May, I'm going to be doing the Asian readathon and the galacticthon. Wow, that sounds like galacticthon. That is not what I meant. Asian readathon is a readathon that is hosted with Cindy here on YouTube. So this year, the Asian readathon is based on the movie Past Lives, which I have not seen. The twist with the Asian readathon is that there are a variety of different prompts which you can fulfill with a single book if you want to, where you can double up. Every book that you do end up reading for the readathon will need to be by a different ethnicity author. So you cannot just read only Chinese books or only Pakistani books. So every book will need to be by an author of a different background. For the first prompt, because of course I'm doing all the prompts with different books, for the first prompt, it is just written by an Asian author. So this is anything that you want that is just written by an Asian author. So I picked The 7 Moons of Mali Almeida. In Colombo, 1990, Mali Almeida, war photographer, gambler, and closet queen, has woken up dead in what seems like a celestial visa office. His dismembered body is sinking in the serene Beira Lake, and he has no idea who killed him. In a country where scores are settled by death squads, suicide bombers, and hired goons, the list of suspects is depressingly long, as the ghouls and ghosts with grudges who cluster around can attest. Ooh. But even in the afterlife, time is running out for Mali. He has 7 moons to contact the man and woman he loves most and lead them to the photos that will rock Sri Lanka. Shahan Karunatilaka is the author, who is Sri Lankan for this book. The next prompt that I have is a book that feels timeless, so I'm going to be reading Against the Loveless World. I have been hearing so much about this book, and I did start it at some point, and then it got returned. So I'm going to be restarting the book. This is a book by a Palestinian author that feels very much like a memoir, but it actually is fiction. It's a sweeping and lyrical novel that follows a young Palestinian refugee as she slowly becomes radicalized while searching for a better life for her family through the Middle East. It's for readers of international bestsellers, including Washington Black, My Sister the Serial Killer, which I loved, and Her Body and Other Parties. As Nahar sits locked away in solitary confinement, she spends her days reflecting on the dramatic events that landed her in prison in a country she barely knows. Born in Kuwait in the 70s to Palestinian refugees, she dreamed of falling in love with the perfect man, raising children, and possibly owning her own beauty salon. Instead, the man she thinks she loves jilts her after a brief marriage. Her family teeters on the brink of poverty. She's forced to prostitute herself, and the U.S. invasion of Iraq makes her a refugee, as her parents had been. After trekking through another temporary home in Jordan, she lands in Palestine, where she finally makes a home, falls in love, and her destiny unfolds under Israeli occupation. So even though this is non-fiction, it is fiction, I think that this reads a lot like an actual memoir, but it also has so many elements that will really draw you in. I remember reading only about 10 minutes of it via the audiobook, and I was already enraptured. So I'm really excited to get back into this and to, really experience this story, which I think is a really, really important story to tell. Next is another book that I'm going to be reading off of my tablet, which is Counterweight. I am reading this for the underrated book prompt. Now, I think that this book has like a 3-ish star rating on Goodreads. I'm considering it underrated because I haven't really heard anybody talking about this book, and I just randomly came across it last night. So Counterweight is a book by a South Korean author, Juna, and this book description is, on the fictional island of Patusan, and much to the ire of the Patusan natives, the Korean conglomerate LK is constructing an elevator into Earth's orbit, gradually turning this one-time tropical resort town into a teeming travel hub, a gateway to and from our planet. Up in space, holding the elevator's spider cable taut, is a mass of space junk known as the counterweight. And it's here that lies the key, a trove of personal data left by LK's former CEO of dire consequence to the company's and the humanity's future. Racing up the elevator to retrieve the data is a host of rival forces. Mac, the novel's narrator, and LK's chief of external affairs, increasingly disillusioned with his employer, the everyman Choi Gung-woo, unwittingly at the center of Mac's investigations, the former CEO's brilliant niece and his power-hungry son, and a violent officer from LK's security division, Rex Tamaki, all caught in a labyrinth of fake identities, neuroimplant worms, and old political grievances held by the Patusan the Patusan Liberation Front, the army of island natives determined to protect their sovereignty. The counterweight is part cyberpunk, part hard-boiled detective fiction, and part parable of Korea's neocolonial ambition and its rippling effects. The next prompt is a debut book by an Asian author, so I'll be reading Chlorine by Jade Song, who is a Chinese author. It's a debut novel that blurs the line between a literary coming-of-age narrative and dark, unsettling horror tale. I do know that this book has some body horror in it, so be aware of that going in if you want to read this book as well. It's about Ren Yu, who is a swimmer. Her daily life starts and ends with the pool. Her teammates are her only friends, her coach, her guiding light. If she swims well enough, she will be scouted, get a scholarship, go to a good school, her parents will love her, her coach will be kind to her, she will have a good life. But these are human concerns. These are the concerns of those confined to land, those with legs. Ren grew up on stories of creatures of the deep, of the oceans and the rivers, ones that called sailors to their doom, ones that dragged them down and drowned them, ones that feasted on their flesh, ones of the creatures that she's always longed to become. Mermaid. Ren aches to be in the water. She dreams of the scent of chlorine, the feel of it on her skin, and she will do anything she can to make a life for herself where she can be free, no matter the pain, no matter what anyone else thinks, no matter how much blood she has to spill. Ooh, so maybe this will be like the old traditional style mermaid before Disney prettified all of the mermaids in our lives. That's quite interesting. So this is classified under horror, fantasy, fiction, LGBT, queer, contemporary, lesbian. So there's a lot of different genres of things that are going on here. But this will be a pretty interesting one. I know Tammy really loves this book, so I'm pretty excited to give this one a shot. And lastly, the last prompt is to read a book with a story, character, or world that represents what you would want in your next life. So the book I am going to be picking for this is Persepolis by an Iranian author, Marjane Satrapi. And this is actually a comic memoir. I've talked about Persepolis a few times on this channel because I really love it, but I never actually finished book 2, so I'm going to be reading that now. This is a comic series that is just in black and white, and it details her life in a memoir form as a young girl during the Islamic Revolution and seeing the war with Iraq that just completely upends life as she knew it. So I don't think I want that in my next life, but I really, really, really appreciate her fortitude and how incredibly just courageous and funny and strong that she is throughout all of this. I feel like that sounds so demeaning just to be like, she was so strong, but I mean, she has such a strong personality, and I really, really love her. Like, you just fall in love with her as a person reading the first couple pages of this book, and I just really, really wanted to, read that again during this month-long readathon. So I think that would be a perfect choice for this prompt. And with that, we can move on from the Asian readathon that is lasting all month into the galacticthon that is happening. The galacticthon has 4 different teams. You can choose your team, and then you can follow the path that is set out for each of the appropriate groups that you end up with. This is a readathon that will have a different prompt to fulfill every week, so you're really not supposed to read ahead. But this is a readathon that is all sci-fi based, so that's why a lot of my books have been very sci-fi for this month. I am choosing Team Space Pirate, which is captained by Christine from the Rumi Digest and piloted by Lisa from Romance Reader Lisa on Instagram. And there are 5 prompts, so you're going to be completing them throughout the month of May with a different prompt every week. For week 1, the first prompt is, "Oh Captain, my Captain," which is to read a book with a found family trope. So I'm going to be picking To Be Taught If Fortunate, which has a very strong found family vibe. I very much love this found family in here, and of course I've already talked about what that's all about. For the prize for the taking prompt for week 2, this is to read a book with a shiny or foiled cover or with metal in the name, and I'm going to be doing The First Sister. As you can see, it's very, very shiny and metallic looking and beautiful. And then for the week 3, which is Abandoned Station, read a book with action or horror. I'm going to be using Counterweight as the book for that. And then for week 4, Tall, Dark, and Friendly, it's to read a First Contact book. So what better book to pick than a book called First Contact, which is very recently released in the beginning of April. In the wake of the solar eclipse, a portal between our world and a paranormal realm opens, and a scientist's life will never be the same. Dr. Renee Kaysen knows there are worse things than an attractive man in a uniform drafting her into a secret government project, especially when Major Jackson makes it clear that he isn't bothered by her questionable past. But when her labs come back with decidedly odd results, the Major is forced to come clean over who the government is actually studying. Renee is shocked to learn her subjects are demonic-looking beings who call themselves neighbors, refugees from a dying world who arrived during the nationwide solar eclipse. The neighbors' technology is unlike anything Renee's ever encountered. At first, she dismisses an injury that inexplicably heals as just one of those things. I mean, that's suspicious already. And surely August, the most gregarious neighbor, begins to speak English overnight because of the team's linguists' skills. Not until August begins evolving in real time to withstand Earth's brighter, drier atmosphere does she admit that the neighbor's tech feels less like science and more like magic. The same magic that brought them here in the first place, and the same they're trying to rekindle with a mysterious labyrinth in order to return home and save their world. At least, that's what August claims they came for. Now, the second book in this series comes out this month. I just saw it on the Libro FM. I peeked at the Libro FM influencer audiobooks for this month, and the second book is coming out as well, which is crazy. Wait, didn't this just, the first book just came out and the second book is also just coming out? That's wild. But part of the reason that I picked this book was because it's narrated by Xe Sands, and I was just talking about this in my vlog, but I was listening to a different audiobook and I heard her voice and I was like, who is that? Because I loved the way her voice sounded. So I went through all of the possible narrators that they said at the very end of the book, like, thank you to this person, this person, this person. And I just went through Libby and I just kept clicking until I could find, typing in everybody's name until I could find the voice, the beautiful, beautiful melodic Little Mermaid Ariel voice of Xe Sands, which I love very much. So she narrates this audiobook, so I'm extremely excited to read this one, but I will have to wait till week 4, and then week 5 is to do the mission complete prompt, which is to read a 5-star prediction. For this, I am going to be picking Dune. I have a good feeling about it, so I really, really hope that this ends up being a 5-star read for me. So there are some additional prompts. First, there are some non-reading prompts, which are not all treasure is silver and gold, which is to just simply spend quality time with people in your life. So I really love that that is a good prompt to do because I'm always wanting to make sure that I have a lot of quality time with friends. And then the other prompt is walk the plank, which is organizing / spring cleaning, which is also perfect for me because I really always need to clean everything. And then there is also a collection of some other prompts that you can complete at any point in time during the readathon as side extra reads that you can do. So of course I came up with a bunch of books for those as well. I am inserting a few of the ones that we've already talked about before, but I have a few extra ones. So first is The Times I Knew I Was Gay, which is a memoir, and this is for the side quest nonfic memoir poetry prompt. This is literally a memoir in comic book form. So she drew this as, I think she drew this as a series of zines, and she went and she distributed these, and then eventually it grew into this larger project, and I've been wanting to read this one for a very long time. Then there is the prompt from All Directions, which is a book that has been recommended multiple times. I am using Red, White, and Royal Blue because every single person is always recommending this book all of the time. And then for the Cosmic Crunchies prompt, which is to read a book with your favorite book trope, I'm going to be reading a book with found family because I am a very big fan of found family. I'm going to be reading The Order of Pure Moon Reflected in Water, a book by Zen Cho, and she basically has this wuxia found family thing that just feels so on brand for these space pirates specifically because it sounds kind of heisty. It combines the vibrancy of old school martial arts movies with characters drawn from the margins of history. A bandit walks into a coffee house, and it all goes downhill from there. Guet Im, a young votary of the Order of the Pure Moon, joins up with an eclectic group of thieves, whether they like it or not, in order to protect a sacred object, and finds herself in a far more complicated situation than she could have ever imagined. This book, as well as another book, has the word moon in it for undisclosed reasons, possibly relating to an upcoming video. There's also a prompt called You're My Only Hope, which is to read a book that is recommended by a friend or a random generator. prompt that would just pick it for you. I am going to consider the one that said, you know, like use a word in the title and find a book for that, because it was recommended by a friend to use that prompt, and also that was kind of a random generator thing to use Artemis for that prompt. I'm trying to take it easy on myself and like really double up where possible to do this. So that is going to be my selection. And then there is also a prompt called The Final Frontier, which is to read a sci-fi subgenre that you don't normally pick up. I'm going to be reading A Prayer for the Crowned Shy. This is a sequel to the first book in the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers. I don't really reach for cozy sci-fi very often. After touring the rural areas of Panga, sibling Dex, a tea monk of some renown, and Mosscap, a robot sent on a quest to determine what humanity really needs, turn their attention to the villages and cities of the Little Moon that they call home. They hope to find the answers they seek while making new friends, learning new concepts, and experiencing the entropic nature of the universe. Becky Chambers' new series continues to ask, in a world where people have what they want, does having even more even matter? They're going to need to ask it a lot. And for the prompt that's called Writings on the Wall, which is to read a graphic novel, I'm going to be reading Shubeck Lubeck, which is a book by Adina Mohammed. It's a brilliant and imaginative debut graphic novel. This is a book that brings to life a fantastical version of Cairo, in which there are wishes that are like counterfeit wishes, kind of like they call them third-class wishes, which always have a risk of things going wrong, and then first-class wishes, which always have things going right. And Shubeck Lubeck is a fairy tale rhyme, which means your wish is my command, a story that also talks about those, you know, wishes being for sale, and then what that means in terms of the bureaucracy, the familiar prejudices of our world that we do experience in our world, but now brought to this fantastical landscape. The more expensive the wish, the more powerful, and therefore the more likely to work as intended. So what does that really mean for people who can't afford to have these really, really nice wishes, who still want something? This is a pretty thick book. It's 528 pages, so we're gonna see how that goes. I will say my other alternative for this prompt is Die, which is a graphic novel about D&D. Oh my gosh, how topical. Because it's me and I love dice and I love D&D. Die is a book I've been trying to read for a little while. It's also a very large graphic novel wrap-up compendium. And this is about a series of friends who all used to play a version of D&D when they were young, and somehow they got swept into this fantastical world. They got isekai'd into this area where they had to like fight and actually do these things that were very traumatic, and then they ended up back home. But one person disappeared. Now, many years later, they are adults. I think they're like 30-something, maybe 40-something, but they somehow get wrapped back up into this fantastical world where they're taken back, way back to this same world that they were transported to, and now that person who disappeared reappears, and I think he's the bad guy now. So they are trying to grapple with what's going on in that world and deal with their traumas, but they're also just trying to get back home. And there's also a prompt called A Message from the Future, which is a new adult fantasy released this month. I haven't prepared enough for this one, so I don't actually know what to pick for this. If you have any recommendations for new adult fantasy that is coming out, I don't think it's new adult like the genre, it's just anything new that is an adult fantasy. Let me know in the comments or on Instagram or wherever. Just connect with me. Please just tell me. The last prompt is Love and Other Things, which is to read a book that features a romance. So I'm going to be reading a book called If It Makes You Happy by Claire Kahn. This is a book that I know Darian is in love with, so I'm going to be reading it. This is a book about a young woman named Winnie. She's all set to attend college in the fall, but first she's spending her summer days working at her granny's diner, and she spends her midnights with Dallas, the boy she loves to hate and hates that she likes. Winnie lives in Misty Haven, a small town where secrets are impossible to keep, like when Winnie allegedly snaps on Dr. Skinner, which results in everyone feeling compelled to give her weight loss advice for her own good because they care that she's too fat. Winnie dreams of someday inheriting the diner, but it'll go away if they can't make money and fast. Winnie has a solution: win a televised cooking competition and make bank. But Granny doesn't want her to enter, so Winnie has to find a way around her formidable grandmother. Can she come out on top? I mean, I love anything that is like, we have to enter the competition, we have to win this thing. I mean, it's just, especially because it's food. I do think that a lot of this is a book which features a romance. It's not just a romance. And also, I think this also has a like queer platonic relationship. These are all of the books that I'm going to be reading for the Galacticthon, and I also have a few other ones that I just wanted to mention off of the bat because I just want to read them. I have them either as currently reading books or other things that I just need to pick up soon for buddy reads. So first I have the book Everyone on This Train is a Suspect, which is a sequel to the book Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. I read that first book and I really enjoyed it, so I was excited to pick up the sequel. It is following the same guy who is now on a train during a writing retreat, and one of the authors that is on the retreat dies, but all the other people who are on the retreat are also mystery authors, so you would think that they also all know how to pull off a murder mystery just based on the fiction that they write and all the research that they do. So the odds are that one of them might be the killer and they need to actually find out who did it, but everybody on the train is a suspect. Oh my gosh, the title is so accurate. Another book I want to read is The Stolen Heir. I have been trying to read this for a little while. I wanted to pick this up because I really loved the Cruel Prince trilogy, and this is sort of a spin-off in another direction. I also talked about this in a recent vlog, so I will link that if you'd like to watch. So this follows a young changeling girl named Ren. She has been living with this human family, but she eventually is kind of like outed as a changeling by her real parents who show up and try to take her away. And so she is very upset that now she is kind of this unknown being that lives in a totally separate world. Like, she wants to still live with her human family, but she can't. And she becomes embroiled in this whole kind of conspiracy thing with Oak, who we met in the first original trilogy as a young boy who is now grown up, and he is the young prince in the Feywilds or Feylands. So she is trying to come to terms with everything that's happening because she is also like a form of royalty, and she and Oak were betrothed to be married, but I think they called it off. I also don't remember very much from the Cruel Prince original trilogy, so I'm hoping I know enough that I can get through this book and not be completely confused, because Holly Black is an excellent writer and she trusts her audience, and the problem is I think she trusts me too much because I don't actually always know what's going on. I have two more books to talk with you about. First is Prettiest, which is a book I'm going to be buddy reading with a friend, and this is a book I've been told not to know too much about going in, but I know Prettiest is a guy, a fella, yeah, he is a fella, living in a very strange labyrinthian house, which is more like a big puzzle. He's trying to navigate through everything, but it is super bizarre. It's not just like, you know, oh, this hallway went right when you thought it was going to go left. It's like there's statues, it's thousands of statues inside, there's like oceans that are crashing, so I think it's very abstract in that sense. There's also another person in the house, a man called The Other, who visits Prettiest twice a week and asks for help with research into a secret knowledge that I guess Prettiest maybe is resisting. As Prettiest explores, evidence emerges of another person, and a terrible truth begins to unravel, revealing a world beyond the one Prettiest has always known. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And the other book I wanted to talk with you about is Spy Family. I started to read some Spy Family in a vlog that I'm also releasing relatively soon, and I love Spy Family very much. I ended up actually rereading a lot of it by accident. I thought I was reading new material, but I think this is actually going to be a new book for me. So this is about a guy who is a spy who has to, in order to fulfill a mission, have a secret fake family. So he ends up finding a woman who is willing to marry him, but she's also secretly an assassin. And then they have to adopt a child, but she's secretly a telepath. And then they end up adopting a dog who can secretly see the future. So pretty much because the daughter is a telepath, she can like read everybody's minds, and she's like, oh my god, like she knows what's really going on, but everyone else is trying to keep it a secret from everyone else. And it is a comedy manga, so it's very fun and enjoyable, and I really, really love it, so I'm excited to get back into this. And with that, that is the end of my May TBRs. There are a lot of very exciting things to read. Let me know if you're participating in any of these readathons, if you'll be reading any of these similar books and you would like to buddy read. Definitely please let me know. I have all of my links in the description for anything that you might want to click on to connect with me or see other videos that I have created. And also I will have a link, a special link just for you to use for the sale with Ana Luisa for the 25% off for Mother's Day. So if you would like to get the 25% off, make sure you click that link so that you get that discount. And other than that, I will see you in the next video. Bye!